So it has been a week of non-stop grinding in Etheria Restart, and this is what my account looks like after all that grinding. I'm level 42, and I am free to play, of course, on this account, as you can see from the first buy bonus. I do have Valerian, however, and she is my favorite animus, so that's really nice. And I've basically been non-stop refreshing energy with gems for the last week. I'm probably going to stop today, as eventually you will run out of gems. You get a lot in the beginning just from doing or completing a lot of the achievements here, but at some point you're going to run out of achievements and all your gems are going to be coming from events, your weekly arena. Basically your gem economy or income is going to be lowered by a lot, and I do want to save some of it for summons. I have reached the point where I've unlocked pretty much all of the endgame content, with the exception of the hardest difficulty on your module grinding, which is the Inferno mode. But honestly, even if I push for that and I max refreshed every day, I don't think I'll be clearing it anytime soon, as currently I'm still struggling with even some of the earlier hell difficulties on some of the stages. Oh, and by the way, if you guys are wondering why I have so many of these are basically like your fuel extra energy that you don't have to use gems, instead you can consume this for energy. I'm sort of waiting for a 2x event or 2x drop event if they ever do release one. They did one in the beta, and it was during the second week of the beta, but currently, if you go to the events tab, there's a bunch of top-up events. There's this new Dazzler Pulse event, the sign up for the PvP. Oh, the Ling Lo event that I completed yesterday. We'll go into that later, but you don't see a double drop event, unfortunately. So this is what I've completed so far in terms of PvE. In terms of Threshold, which is your gear slash module grinding, I've cleared up to Teramaton 2, Doki Hell 3, and I actually managed to clear Hell 1 of Aurora, although I'll go into how annoying and difficult that was later. It was quite the mess. I had to completely re-gear my team and build new characters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because the character I built is really good and doesn't require too much investment, at least for an SR. Grand Pursuit, I'm all the way up to Sharon Hell. I did struggle a little bit at the beginning, but eventually, after building that character, we just basically one-shotted her, or we killed her in just like a few rotations. The pets or the shells that she drops aren't even that great, so all I had to do was just clear it a few times. For the most part, I've been living in Nico Nana Hell for like the last 3 days, I believe, and we've just been farming this instead. And as for Shadow Flame Hoyan, she unlocks at 45, so it's gonna be a while before we get to her. And then Roketsu, that's a whole nother story. I think he unlocks at 50. As for this, the Anasync Echoes, I haven't really been pushing too hard. I was actually stuck on Borgnay again for a pretty long time because of his stupid anti-crit mechanic. But eventually I did get a run where I was lucky enough to get enough buffs on my Grey, and he was able to defense break the majority of the team. And then my main DPS was able to wipe the remaining of the ads, and eventually we finish off Borgnay. Now I'm currently on Kuru. I wouldn't say I'm stuck on him, I just haven't attempted it in a while. I did actually struggle a little bit on the hard mode, so I'm assuming the last difficulty might be a little bit too much for my team to currently handle, but we'll see. I'll probably attempt it a little bit more later. Alright, next, let me go over my characters or animuses that I've pulled so far. And of course, we have Messiah. I actually pulled him on day 3 or 4, and I have to say he was an absolute blessing to pull this character. Because at the time, I was struggling so hard on just Doki. I think it was like hard Doki or nightmare Doki. I just could not clear the stage because I didn't have a good AoE DPS. And my only damage dealer, aside from Leanne... Actually, Leanne was pretty much my only damage dealer at the time. And I built up Grey, but he's more of a sub DPS. But once we pulled Messiah, it made Doki so much easier. Like, it was so bad to the point where I was actually considering using my selective summon on Ramoka just to make things progress a little bit faster. But thankfully, our savior Messiah saved my account. So anyways, these are his stats, his modules. They're okay. Obviously, they can be improved. I have not used any Latices on him yet. I do have a lot stored up, but currently I'm debating on whether or not it is a safe bet to use it on him. He currently is the strongest damage dealer in the game. However, based on my experience in these gacha games, damage dealers tend to be power creep the fastest or the easiest. So I'm going to be a little cautious when it comes to investing these perfect Latices, as these do not come by easily at all. and I already used up my reset on Leanne. So even if I do make the decision to invest into him, it would cost me gems to reverse the damage that I've done to the account. So for now, we're holding off, and I want to see what other characters I end up pulling, or whether or not he's actually worth fully investing into. But based on my experience and what he's done so far, he's pretty solid. Very decent in all types of content, particularly best in slot for Doki Doki at the moment, other than Ramoka, of course. And for PvP, he's an absolute monster. For a shell, I managed to farm up a White Fang. Not the best sets for now. Momentum's really good later on, but I can't even farm that threshold really well right now. Ideally, I would like something like Kenai, probably triple Kenai and triple Onslaught, and maybe Harvest. That's more of the early sets, early to mid game sets. Once you are able to farm Aurora more, though, Momentum is probably going to be one of the best sets you can do. But for now, it's kind of useless. Other than that, I got really lucky with the passive effects on this pet. Like, Jesus Christ. If you take a look at how much... actually, it's right here. How many of these reconfigured chips I have left over? It did not take that many attempts for me to actually roll all of these into the red tier. First one, attack percent. Second one, crit rate. And then, of course, I got really lucky and it happened to roll constant. So I was like, alright, this is basically the perfect setup for my Messiah. Alright, moving on to Ling Lo. It's actually really funny. Well, I wouldn't say it's funny, but I did pull a copy of Ling Lo early on. In fact, on day 1, I pulled my first copy of her, as you can see through the prowess here. And then obviously the second copy is from the day 7 event. Everyone gets her for free. So it kind of sucks when you pull a character that you can get for free on day 7. I was a little bit despaired as well. Actually, I'll post a clip or a screenshot of the tempo. It also included the light dark unit Sanya, the ML Sanya. So it was actually considered a really lucky 10 pull, but the two characters that I got from that 10 pull aren't necessarily... I mean, Ling Lo is great, don't get me wrong, but you don't want to be pulling her because you get her for free. There are some benefits of pulling her early. She is the best healer in the game, so it made progression a little bit easier, I guess, and I got to build her up faster. That's why she's currently 6-star, because I had her since day 1. But other than that, yeah. So kind of a cursed and blessing at the same time when it comes to that 10 pull. Anyways, these are her modules, currently on a speed set. Prowess, I have upgraded the nodes to the maximum before the Latice. May or may not consider building her or putting the Latice investment in her because she is a really good healer. Healers generally don't get power creep that badly, but you don't really want to over-invest into your supports unless it's like a very universal support, which we'll get into later down the line. I'm pretty sure you guys already see the character. But for now, we'll leave her prowess at that. As for the shell, I managed to farm up a Alicorn, not with the best sets once again, but this was the only one that had triple speed on it. I want Bramble as the secondary set, because Bramble set on Ling Lo, the 8-piece effect, is actually pretty good. It's basically counter Ling Lo, and every time she heals, even on her basic, she has a chance to purify, so it's actually a pretty good combo. Was not as lucky on the passive effect on these pets. Flat HP, but it is red, so I kept it. Effect resist is nice, but speed is more universal. And then this one, I couldn't really get it to be the one I wanted. This one's okay, but it's only purple tier, so it is what it is. Alright, next is Gray. He is awesome, one of the best SRs in the game, so I'm definitely building him. I use him in Doki and Teramaton as well. I obviously won't be using him in Aurora. I actually did bring him into one fight, and that didn't go very well. The elemental disadvantage and the immunity. But besides that, he's generally just a very strong PvE character in the early and mid game. He might fall off, actually he probably will fall off quite a bit in the end game when all your characters are built up to near 100 crit rate. His crit rate buff then becomes a little bit obsolete, but currently he's still being used in pretty much all my teams. These are his modules. I want him to be as fast as possible, so 12-piece speed set. Prowess or his talents are completely maxed out. SRs, one of the things I love about SRs is their talents are so easy to level because the purple Latice, compared to the perfect Latice, is much easier to obtain. And it just basically makes them a lot stronger early on compared to a lot of the SSRs that don't have their skills upgraded. Shells, he's also running White Fang as well on the triple speed. Ideally, the second set doesn't really matter, but probably Onslaught or Harvest would be nice. Or Keen Eye. Actually, Keen Eye is probably the best for him because it gives crit damage and he only deals like a couple hits, single hit, and a. Actually, all his attacks are single hits. So now that I think about it, Keen Eye is actually probably the best in slot damage set for Gray. For the passive skills, they're okay. This one's flat attack, not the greatest. Ideally, I would like crit rate, but it happened to roll a red crit damage roll, so I was like, I'll just keep it for now. I don't want to waste too many resources rolling into this. The last slot, I did roll a couple of times, and eventually I did get the hollow one. I was actually rolling for either hollow or the dark one because this pet was going to be either given to him or Dieting, who I'll talk about right after. I ended up rolling a hollow one, so this one's going to be for Gray. Alright, next is Dieting. And honestly, I will admit, I slept on this dude a lot the first couple of days. I didn't build him up until yesterday. And the reason why was because I didn't know he did this much damage. I eventually found out how much damage he did because I was doing a Phantom Theater, and then one of my ally, or the teammate I had a Dieting on his side. And I like to scroll between the different teams to see how they're doing. And I saw that his Dieting was hitting the boss for over 100k damage on his ultimate. And that is like 3 times the amount my Messiah can deal on his ultimate. Imagine a SR being able to deal that much damage. It is actually unheard of. So I tried him out, built him. He's not even fully built. He's level 40 at 5-star with... Well, I mean, to be fair, for that particular run, I used him in Aurora. For that particular run, what ended up happening was I took all the gear from my Messiah, the best gear I had, put it on him, and he became my DPS character. He was hitting for around 20 to... It was like close to 30k per hit on his ultimate. Compared to my Messiah, who would only hit for like 11 to 10k on a crit on his ultimate. So that's kind of ridiculous how much damage not even a fully built Dieting can do. And eventually I was able to clear Aurora Hell 1. Because there was a event quest, or I forgot what quest, or maybe one of the missions I had to do, that wanted me to clear Aurora, but it was on one of the lower difficulties. And I didn't want to waste my stamina on the lower difficulty. So I was like, I need to at least clear Hell 1. So I have a chance of getting red gear, or just a better chance of better gear. So I built up Dieting, and we ended up doing that. It took a lot of attempts. At first, I was using Messiah as the main DPS with all his best gear. We couldn't clear it, but eventually I thought to myself, if I could use Dieting, pair him with Lily, and then reset his ultimate, then we can probably kill the boss off within like 2 to 3 rotations instead of fighting a longer fight, which eventually just led to us dying. And he's very squishy too. The one weakness about Dieting is he is very frail. So if you don't kill the boss after 2 to 3 rotations of his ultimate, your team probably is... He's probably going to die, and then your team's going to wipe, unless you have some sort of way to revive him. But yeah, really glad I found out how broken he is. Once he's fully built, he will be the main damage dealer in Aurora and Terramaton. And I am currently stuck on Terramaton Hell 2, so I am going to need him. These are his current modules. I just slapped on some of my old modules from the earlier days, like the first 2 to 3 days of playing the game. So he's using them right now, but eventually, obviously, we're going to give him the best gear we can possibly give him. Prowess, I still need to... I've already upgraded his skill 2 and skill 3, or his skill 3 and skill 2 fully, and then all that's left is his skill 1. I might hold off, though, because I do need to build another SR for Doki Doki, and we'll get into that in a moment, and I'm currently very low on purple Latice, so this does give him a lot of damage, but it's not a priority, obviously, so I can hold off on this for now. As for his shell, this is one of the earlier shells that I built up for one of my damage dealers, so he's currently holding it. I honestly can recycle this one at this point, but you know what? I'm just going to show you guys all my shells, so I don't have to do it later. So these are all the shells that I have. I have 3 Mystics, 3, I think these are called, oh, they're called Black Flags. Yeah, they're some of the, they're the best, what do you call it? What rarity is this? Epic. They're the best epic pets or shells you can farm. So I managed to farm 3 copies of them before we got to the mythic tier. And for the purple pets, or the unique pets, I farmed up 2 Unbridled Sciences, like the first 2 days. And then I tried to not farm or build any other unique pets, but I got stuck on like day 3 or day 4. Like I told you, I was so close to just using my selective summon on Remoka. And eventually I just said to myself, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to build 2 unique pets for my damage dealers so they deal more damage, and then I can pass the 2 support pets to my supports and healers, because one of the issues was my healer and supports were just dying because they were holding on to level 1 unique pets that weren't leveled up. And if you guys didn't know, these shells, they give a lot of base stats, especially early on in the game. So I was like, you know what? We need this little bit of power boost in order to progress through the game, so I built these 2. And all the other ones currently I have are just like pets that I haven't decided to build or fodder material. Alright, and we're finally at Lily, who is she's actually not my first SSR, but I did do a couple of rerolls. But by the way, this account is actually the first account I rerolled on, so I did get Lily on my very first reroll. But I did 4 other rerolls on 4 different emails that I actually use. None of them got anything that great, so we settled for the first account that I rerolled on. And she is my second SSR, and I was so amazed and surprised when I pulled her. I was like, oh my god, we got literally the best, arguably the best, maybe not the best, but the most universally used support in the game. So, pretty happy about that. These are modules, obviously speed set. Not really that fast. I do have an issue with Lily, or using Lily, and that's you have to speed tune your team pretty well. If you run, obviously you can run her as the fastest character on your team, and it's pretty easy to due to her base speed. But if the rest of your teammates are not fast enough and you use her skill 2 buff on your damage dealer, and your damage dealer is a little bit too fast, I've had issues where before it was Leanne, now it's Messiah, they would end up just cutting the other 2 supports or debuffers on your team. So then they would basically take their turn, and they wouldn't have any other damage buffs, and the opponents wouldn't be debuffed, and that would kind of screw things up, now wouldn't it? Before I would just run before I had the speed gear to put on her, I would just run a slower Lily. So Lily would be slower than both my Gray and Bayotin, which we will go into next. But now that I actually have enough speed gear to give her enough speed to make her fast, I actually speed tune Gray and Bayotin to be relatively close in speed to her. So even if she does buff up my Messiah actually does not end up cutting my Gray before he ends up giving the crit buff and the defense down, etc, etc. But obviously this is very difficult early on when you don't have the speed gear or enough gear to speed tune your team properly. Moving on to her prowess, I actually did level up her skill 1 all the way. I haven't done so on her skill 2 and skill 3. And the reason why I actually invested my perfect Latisis into a support character rather than something like a DPS, and that's because support characters tend to not get power creeped or replaced as easily as damage dealers, especially when it comes to a support like Lily, who is just universally useful. Her buffs can pretty much be used on any type of character, whether they are a traditional crit DPS, whether they do DOT, whether they do non-crit, whether they scale off HP or defense, it does not matter. Lily's buffs are very universal, and she's a very, safe option or investment to put your Latisis into. And her skill 1, unlike other supports where they have, damage increase or some other useless buff, all of these levels actually have some sort of use, especially when you get to level 5. I cannot stress enough how annoying it was early game when it starts out off at 60% chance to support from the ally with Twin Trick, and there would be a lot of fights where I was so close to winning, but my freaking ally didn't do the follow-up attack, and we would actually end up losing the run. Once you get this up all the way to level 5 with 100%, there's no more RNG. It's just guaranteed consistent follow-up damage. And of course the turn meter push is also nice. On top of that, you also get additional speed substats on her, an extra 15. So this is absolutely, if you guys have Lily and you don't know who to invest your Latisis into, I would say Lily is your safest bet. For sure. You will not regret it. Moving on to her shell, another black flag. For these epic shells, I did not reconfigure. There was actually one of the, I forgot what it's called, but it's one of those missions where it tells you have to reconfigure an epic shell a couple of times. I figured it works with a higher rarity, and I did not want to waste any of that material on shells that eventually, this shell, even though it's good in the mid game, it will eventually be replaced with the mythic tier. I forgot what the name of it. I think it's like something Jackal, but it's basically just an upgraded Black Flag. So I wanted to save on materials there. All right, next is Bayotin, and she is actually the very first SSR that I managed to pull on this account. And I was quite happy about it because she is a really, really good support. One of the best offensive supports in the game. And she paired really well with Leanne early on, which unfortunately, as you can tell, I reversed her for all the materials and stuff. But we'll go into that after we're done with Bayotin. But she just pairs really well with any offensive team that you want to run in both PvE and PvP. Anyways, these are her modules. Speed set, again, as well. Prowess, I have not put too much investment yet. Just a minimum for her bulk. And then shells, of course, she's running a Black Flag as well. Next is Marvel. I started working on him, but I've been holding off because there's actually a change in a lot of the threshold bosses where they are more resistant to pushback, so he's actually not as good in a lot of PvE content compared to when he was before. He is still an absolute piece of shit in PvP, and I absolutely hate fighting this guy, so that's why I'm going to build him up eventually. That might change in the future, in a couple of months when everyone has immunity set. Then his use will probably be a lot worse, considering you can't push anyone back or debuff them when they have immunity. So then debuffers, or not debuffers, well yeah, debuffers will fall a little bit in the meta, and then the buff strippers will rise up. Alright, next is Kazuyo, and I want to mention her along with Kraken, because I'm considering these two, or only one of these two, to be built for Doki Doki domain. You need a hard CC character, and she's by far the best option for that. The only issue with her is, that is the only place she's used. Everywhere else, she's either not used or very mediocre. Versus Kraken, he can be used in Doki, and in PvP a little bit, although I've mentioned before in my previous account overviews, I also hate this character and his playstyle. I just hate the hard CC type of playstyle. Aside from that, he can also be used in some other PvE content, not a lot. One in particular I found out was Shadow Flame Hoyan, one of the Grim Pursuit bosses that I haven't unlocked yet. You would actually want a character that can stun or freeze, not so much sleep. Because sleep, even though she won't wake up the mobs, your teammates will. And unlike Doki, where you need the CC to remove the damage reduction, in Shadow Flame Hoyan, you actually just want the enemy mobs to get hard CC so they don't attack. But if you wake them up, then she won't be as useful, right? She does have an attack down, however, so I guess that helps a bit. But that doesn't really counter it completely, because the reason why you want the mobs to be hard CC is because whenever they counterattack, they give Shadow Flame Hoyan stacks, and the goal is to prevent Shadow Flame Hoyan from hitting the amount of stacks she needs to unleash her ultimate attack. So Kraken would be a better choice for that. On top of that, he also has a defense down on his S1, so that's even more damage for you to speed up on your run. So honestly, I at first was going to invest into her, that's why she's 4-star, but I thought about it, and even though Kraken isn't as good in Doki Doki because his his skills are on a longer cooldown, and I think there's a less chance for him to land the freeze as well. But he just has more uses elsewhere. So I think he's probably the better option, and I've decided to build him over Kazuyo. But I just like to mention that because I did consider building her at one point. And all the top teams for Doki that are clearing the fastest are running her instead of Kraken. Alright, next we have to talk about Leanne. Actually, now that I think about it, Leanne is technically everyone's first SSR, but aside from that, I did fully invest into Leanne early on, all the way until day 5 or 6. Yeah, it was day 5 or 6. And then we hit Teramaton Hell difficulty. We cleared Hell 1 relatively easily, but when we got to Hell 2, I could not clear that unless I manualed it, and it was very RNG based. It came down to whether or not I got the defense break on Gray, and whether or not Leanne was actually able to steal and push back the turn meter on the Teramaton boss and its arms. If any of those conditions failed, the run basically bricked, and I had a very well invested in Leanne. In fact, all the gear on my Messiah used to belong to Leanne, and it even got to the point where I got so frustrated, I actually leveled Leanne all the way up to level 50, 6-star, and then, eventually we cleared Teramaton Hell 2, but then we tried Hell 3, and that didn't go too well. So eventually I thought to myself, if this is as far as I can go with Leanne, I might as well. I mean, we get a free reversion anyways, so you should take advantage of that, whether if you want to or not, to get the Latice back from her prowess, because you are forced into putting investment in order to complete the missions. You should use it because it's free, and if you decide later on that, like me, if I decide later on I want to rebuild my Leanne and put the investment back into her, you don't lose anything on it, because like I said, you get one reversion for free on any character. So I would recommend, I mean, the event is already over, so I don't even know why I'm talking about this. Yeah, never mind. The event's already over. Basically, if you guys didn't take advantage of the free reset for that event, then you're missing out. Or you're basically missing out. Point is, if I ever do decide to reinvest into Leanne, it's not really going to cost me anything. And there might be a chance that I will, because she is currently the only reason or red element damage dealer that I have. There might be content in the future that's locked just behind her, but currently, Messiah does everything she does just as well, if not better. Alright, on to Shadow Sanya. She's not a terrible SSR, probably still the worst of all the MLs, just because DOT is such a niche archetype. And she's gotten a lot worse since the beta, because apparently, I don't know why they did this. I mean, because this character was already, like, specifically only tied to PvE content. But they removed the ability for you to actually inflict DOT on Aurora, which is one of the endgame thresholds. And she was basically the best character you could use for that particular threshold. Now she's basically completely useless there. And her only use, well, I wouldn't say only use, but one of her only uses is for Teramaton and Grim Pursuit bosses. So that's only two places where she's kind of used. And PvP, you can completely forget about it, because there's so many cleansing abilities and the ability to just one-shot early game that DOT is not anywhere near as strong as those other archetypes. And you know what irritates me even more? It's the fact that I actually pulled 2 copies of Sanya, the ML Sanya. So essentially, I pulled 4 MLs on this account. But unfortunately, 2 of those copies are Sanya. They could have been anything else, but no, we got Sanya. So I don't know what to think of this, whether my luck is cracked or unlucky. Some people might say, hey, you got 4, what do you call it, Moonlight SSRs, but 2 of them, or at least one of them, is a dupe, so that's not fun. Will I build her up in the future? Well, that really depends on whether or not I'm really struggling when it comes to endgame content, especially the later Grim Pursuit bosses, Shadowflame Hoyan and what's-his-face, Roketsu. But for now, she is going to be sitting on the bench. Alright, next is by far my favorite character in the entire game, Valerian. I am going to be building her up eventually once we have enough Purple Latices to invest in her skills. The only one that really needs to be invested into is her skill 3. Once you have this maxed, you can basically leave her alone, just give her some gear, and she'll work perfectly fine. So yeah, I will eventually build her up. Oh, since we're at Sanya, the other Sanya, the better Sanya, who is an SR by the way, it also irritated me that I pulled both Sanya and Linglo on that one tempo, because I already had Sanya and Valerian very early on my account. So essentially, I could have basically rolled with these 2 before I got my Linglo, but we ended up pulling Linglo. So I was like, okay, essentially Sanya almost has... I mean, I wouldn't say she has no use, because there are places where you want to revive, or you just cannot bring Linglo because of the element disadvantage. So I can't say she's completely useless when it comes to usage when you already have Linglo, but her value definitely goes down by quite a bit once you get Linglo. I already went over Kraken. I'm going to be building him up for Doki Doki and PvP and some other PvE content like Shadowflame Hoyan. Aside from that, I really dislike this character. He is a actual piece of shit that doesn't let you have fun in the game. Alright, moving on. Every time I pull Chiaki or get her on my account, there's always some other support, cough cough Lily, cough cough Baton, that just basically takes her place, and I never get a chance to build her up. She's by no means a bad SSR, or a bad SR character. It's just that if you have any of the SSRs, they just do a better job than her. Her only, like, thing that she does that the other SSR supports probably don't have is the cleanse from the debuff. But if you're running a healer, then, I mean, I guess there's also the push-up. No, most SSR supports have the action advance. It's mostly the Purify, but like I said, if you're running a healer, you don't really need this as much. And now we have all the leftover SSRs that I probably will not build up, or it will be some time before I build them up for their specific niches or roles. Lilith, honestly, I tried her out in the previous beta. She's very underwhelming in most PvE content. Her main use is PvP. She could be used in Doki, but she's very inconsistent when it comes to her stun. So I don't really want to use her. And she's an SSR, so she's going to require more investment in order for that stun to actually be more consistent. I would rather just build up a Kraken who doesn't... Even though I hate this guy, he requires less resources and investment to build into. And honestly, I don't really think she's worth building based on my previous testings. So it's kind of unfortunate that I pulled her. Veronica, I don't currently have a need for, but I did mention before, she is very useful in certain scenarios in PvP, and she can also be used as a dispel or buff stealer on Terramaton. And probably Aurora. I'm not sure if you can steal the... you probably can. You probably can steal the immunity on Aurora as well. I can use her as the Dispeller or Buff Stealer role in those two particular PvE scenarios. So she does have some use, but I don't particularly need to use her right now. Love her design, by the way. Not mad that I pulled her, just I don't have immediate use for her. And then for Borgnay, I tried him out in the previous beta. He had underwhelming results, so I am not a big fan of him. Not to mention, even though the ability to not crit does allow him to be built easier, but that is kind of just anti-synergy with Gray, who I already have built up. You're basically not able to utilize half of Gray's kit, so I don't really want to build him up and pair him with Gray. Like, his essential use would be for Doki and PvP, I guess, of course, but I just don't really like using Borgnay. His performance really was underwhelming when it came to the last closed beta. Alrighty, and then of course, we can't end off the video without some summons. This is the selective summon banner. I haven't used it yet, as you can see. I'm going to hold off until I get my free SSR or random free SSR for the 2-week event login thing where you complete missions. I forgot the name. You guys know what I'm talking about. After the Linglo event, you get a free SSR. It's completely random. So I want to wait until I get that SSR, and then from there, I'll see what my account is missing, and then we will choose an SSR to summon from this selective summon banner. Some of my choices currently, based on my roster, would be Rosa. She's a really good option. She's strong in a lot of PvE content, especially things like the Union Boss and Aurora Threshold. And she's also pretty solid in PvP, and she's also one of the best looking waifus in my opinion. So a very good choice. Next would probably be Tiamat, although she did get nerfed quite a bit, so I see that her value might have dropped a bit as well. But overall, just as a character in general, she's just very universally useful. Even if she loses her 1v5 ability or 1v4 ability in her power, she still has tanking ability. She gives a shield, she has a taunt, she has a built-in damage absorption or damage sharing. Like if you guys played Epic 7, she has a built-in Aureus effect, so that will always be useful in any sort of knight or tank. So she'll never not be useful. She just may not be top tier when it comes to soloing for your entire team. So I might choose her depending on whether or not I've already picked up a Rosa. I would say Rosa is definitely a priority over Tiamat at this point. Next is Tsukiyomi, which I had selected in the very beginning, if you guys didn't notice. She's another knight. I like how all the knights and all the characters that I'm picking are mostly of the odd element or the blue element. They just happen to be all good and really good looking as well. But Tsukiyomi is a very good offensive tank compared to Tiamat, who is more of a... I guess Tiamat, you can counter offensive if you consider her ability to 1v4 the enemy team. But in terms of like offensive buff, Tsukiyomi is one of the best tanks. And she pairs really well with my Messiah because of the attack and speed buff and the 100... She's like a Bronya, if you played Honkai Star Rail. She can advance forward Messiah with the attack and speed buff, and the Messiah would just... This combo is absolutely insane. Messiah would just S3 and wipe whatever the enemy team has, or be very close to wiping the enemy team with his S3. And she just also, in general, has a lot of turn meter push for your team. So having turn meter push is just very useful in a lot of PvP scenarios. She can also be used in PvE as well. Attack and speed buff are pretty good and relatively universal for most teams. And not to mention, her design is also really nice. Really like that design. So, she would probably be number 2. Of course, I think it's still going to be Rosa at the top, followed by Tsukiyomi, and then Tiamat. I did mention before, I was so tempted, or desperate, to the point where I almost summoned for Ramoka, until Messiah saved the day, and now my account is in a much better place. Don't get me wrong though, Ramoka is still the best to clear Doki Doki consistently and fast. But aside from that, and I guess I've been seeing a lot, I mean obviously if you put a lot of investment in any character, they're going to work in PvP. But she can be used in PvP as well, but aside from that, the other content, she's alright. Not the biggest fan of her design, but do not let that stop you from picking Ramoka if you really are struggling with Doki Doki. She makes your life a lot easier. And the last 2 characters I would be considering for the selector are actually going to be Rahu and maybe Kloss. Although less likely Kloss, even though she's one of the best debuffers in the game right now, and she got a lot of strong buffs. The thing is, I'm already running Gray as my debuffer in Doki. She is better in PvP, of course. But like I said, once we get into the later stages of PvP, when everyone has immunity, her value might drop quite a bit. But since her role is already being filled by Gray, essentially, don't get me wrong, her debuffs are much better than Gray's defense down. But since I already have that role filled, I don't really see the need of pulling her. She's just something to have in addition to my roster, and I won't be building her up right away. So that makes her pull value a lot less significant. Compared to someone like Rahu, he is very strong, and he actually scales off defense. He's essentially a defense scaling bruiser. He's not that useful in PvE. You can use him in Doki, but your runs will be very slow. Because he does a lot of damage, but when the enemies have like millions or hundreds of thousands of HP, a defense scaler just won't deal as much damage as a traditional attack scaling damage dealer. His main use is in PvP. And I guess he's also pretty solid in Union Boss due to his follow-up attacks. He's essentially a defense scaling version of Rosa. So he's not bad in that regards. Very solid unit. And not to mention, you'll be farming a lot of Bramble sets. And I don't know if you want to be running the defense set on him or speed set. I think you can run either or, depending on your playstyle. But you'll be getting a lot of those 2 defense sets that pretty much I mean, a lot of people will use Bramble, but pretty much no one else is going to use the Unbreakable set. So you can take advantage of those useless, quote-unquote useless sets and use that to build him. So he is a very solid choice. Probably I might even put him above Tiamat. He might actually be my number 3 choice. As much as I like Tiamat's playstyle, that crazy Unga Bunga brain dead character, and her design, I think Rahu will probably be more of an asset and add more value to my account overall. So it's gonna go Rosa, Tsukiyomi, Rahu, Tiamat, and then if I somehow have all 4 of those characters by the end of the 2 weeks, I guess I'll pick up a Kloss. Alrighty, enough of my yapping. It's time to do some summons on the permanent summon banner, and I believe I am 63 away from pity, so we do have enough summons to guarantee an SSR. Hopefully we don't have to hit pity, even though 80 pity is very, very generous for any gacha game. I don't think I've played a gacha game where the pity is that low. Actually, no. I think that one game for Konosuba might have better rates, but that game unfortunately already EOS'd for that reason, probably. Anyways, let's get started. Hopefully no dupe. Alright, it's just an SR. Do I want to skip the SRs? I've been skipping the SR characters, just on my regular summons that I haven't been recording. But I am actually missing a few SR characters that I want to build, or I wouldn't say I need to build. Sanya is not one of them. But yeah, not really that I need to build, but I would like to have on my roster. One of them is Obel for the DOT team, if I ever decide to build up my Shadow Sanya. He is one of the best partners to pair up with her, but I don't have a single copy of him yet, so it's a bit unfortunate. Alright, next 10 pull. The other SR is actually Dinah. She's basically a really strong Reason or Red unit that can debuff for your team. Essentially, she's an alternative to Gray, but since everyone gets Gray for free, I figured I'd build him up instead, and I had the most experience. Oh, speaking of Obol, there's the old man. There's the old man. Alright, so that's one of the SRs that we needed. Now we're just missing Dinah. But yeah, she's essentially just an alternative version of Gray that you can use. She's actually better for content like Terramaton and Aurora, because you can't even use a Gray in Aurora anyways. Alright, next temple, not bad. I'll take that Obol. I will take that Obol. I would like to see an SSR in the next couple of polls though. Marvel, okay, that's fine. In terms of dupes, I guess I wouldn't mind Valerian. Kraken, I already have him up to the node where I get the effect accuracy, so I don't really care too much about him, and I don't like the character anyways. So Valerian and I guess Obol? Oh, no, Gray. I need Gray dupes. I have not pulled a single copy of Gray, I just realized that. Yeah, and we're not getting an SR. Or SSR here, unfortunately. I somehow managed to not pull a single copy of Gray yet from all my summons, and I've done a lot. Oh! Hey, you ask and the game will give. Even though that's still only my first copy, I need like, what, 4 more? Is it 4 or is it 5 or 6 for dupes in this game? I'm not sure. But anyways, there's my Gray dupe. So he will be a little bit stronger. Hopefully he won't explode. I do have one issue with Gray. He is very frail, and when I use him in Terramaton, he constantly gets one-shotted, or two-shotted, so hopefully this helps a little bit with that. Alrighty, I'll take that. Alright, SSR, please. How many do we have left until putting out? 23. Let's get in there. And hopefully it's not a dupe. Oh! Okay, it's an SSR. You can tell because it turns yellow when you slide the CD disc in. If you guys didn't know, that's how you tell whether or not it's an SSR or an SR. If it's purple, then it's an SR. If it's, what do you call it, yellow, then you got an SSR. Alright, Rin, she's okay as a... I think she's a damage dealer. She's like the... If you have absolutely nothing, she is like the only other option you have for Doki Doki when it comes to a damage dealer. Alright, let's see. What is the SSR? Please no dupe. Please no dupe. I'm begging you, no dupe. Doki sign? Oh my... Okay. So, Ling Lo is one of my favorite characters in this game, in terms of design and her usage, but this is a little bit devastating. It's funny because I saw the Doki sign, and most of the characters for Doki are pretty damn solid. You have Lily, you have Shada, you have Doki herself, and you got Ling Lo. So my Ling Lo is at Eidolon 2, or whatever you want to call it. I have 2 copies of her now. 2 extra copies. And it's funny because I'm requesting Ling Lo dupes or shards in my guild as well now. So she is on her way to being Eidolon 3 eventually at some point. Oh my god, what is this game? Alright, that is... I did not want to dupe, and unfortunately we got one. Although, I will have to say it's probably not one of the worst dupes. It could have been worse. It could have been a Lilith dupe. Or another Shadow Sonya dupe. Actually, if I got another Shadow Sonya dupe, oh my god, I would have been so tilted. Oh my god. Alright, moving on. Oh! Double Doki! Okay, a Lily dupe! I actually don't know what to say about this. This is actually insane look. A lot of people would be like, what the hell, man? You just got 2 SSRs again? You got 2 SSRs and 1 10 pull? Oh my god, one of them is Lily. I already have Lily, so the value goes down by quite a bit, but I mean... Okay, you know what? I'm gonna shut up. I can't be mad about this 10 pull, but... It's a bit unfortunate that they're both dupes, but they're both from the Doki faction as well. That's kind of hilarious. Wow. What is this 10 pull? Jesus Christ. That's actually my 3rd 10 pull with a double SSR, I believe. I'll show you guys a screenshot of one of the other ones, but the other one was Borgnay and Lilith. That was a lot more underwhelming. In fact, this is probably, in my opinion, the best 10 pull that had double SSRs of the 3 that I had. Okay, I'll take it. It's fine. It's not, I mean, they're both characters that I love and use, but it's nothing new added to my account. Alright, not terrible. At first I was a little bit despairing at Ling Low, but that Lily dupe kind of made up for it. Okay, now that we pulled our 2 SSRs, as you can see, the pity has been reset to 80. And we got 2 more 10 pulls, and apparently I forgot about these. These come from like a certain game mode that you get 1 free summon. And it does not count towards like the 10 pull, whatever, you just have to do them individually. Let's actually just get these out of the way before I do my last 2 10 pulls. I doubt we're going to get anything else, any SSRs. I'm going to just skip the rares. Unless it becomes like a purple. I'm just going to skip it. But yeah, I doubt we're going to get any more SSRs when it comes to these summons. If we do, then holy crap. I am very lucky. I'm already very lucky. 2 really good SSRs. But like I said before, it is just unfortunate. I already have copies of them. Are we at least going to get a purple? I don't think so. You're not guaranteed one, unlike the 10 pull. Oh, we are going to get a purple. Okay. Okay, we'll let it roll. Let's see what it is. We'll see what it is. Viper. Oh, actually, I forgot about. I don't know why he reminded me of it, but I would like one more Dieting dupe. I think he's at E4 or E5. But I think I need one more copy so I can get the increased damage dealt and decreased damage dealt in all content. Okay, and that's the last one for singles. Alright, let's do this 10 pull. Alright, no SSR, as expected. And then after I'm done with all these summons, I'm basically going to just wait. I'm going to hold off and save all my summons until... Oh, there's Kazuyo. Also, every time she talks, I keep thinking she says cookie. She's like cookie or cookie. Let me know if you get that. Let me know if that's what you guys think as well. That's the impression I get every time she talks. But I'm gonna hold off on all my summons until the end of week 2 when I get the random SSR. I'll probably make a video on it too to see what SSR I get, and then we're gonna use whatever summons we have until 40. I'm gonna summon until I have 40 summons left, and then from there I'm gonna choose the SSR I pick from the selector summon. All right, last 10 pull of Destiny. Give me the SSR. Nah, it's probably asking for too much since we already pulled a no SSR. Pulled a double SSR from that 10 pull. What are we gonna get? Dorothy. I'm good. Is that it? That's probably gonna be it. I think that's it, boys. Yep. Alright. Dorothy to end things off. Alrighty, guys. That's going to be it for this Etheria restart video. I'll see you guys next time. Take care and peace.